I was very lucky enough to go to Brazil last August to see the Olympics. And also 1 year later, I visited Brazil again on a very wet week in the middle of August to see how Brazil had changed or whether I could take some different images. The Olympic Games were absolutely fantastic. And I must say that the Brazilian people, and particularly those of Rio, really did open their hearts and minds to a wonderful Olympic Games. The equestrian events were just superb. The technical difficulty of photographing horse events is to always get the separation of the legs and not get legs hidden one behind the other. So if you're photographing from the side, you've got to make sure that the horse's legs are separate so you can see all four. The cycling was interesting. The velodrome, I've never been in a velodrome before. The cyclists are doing over 40 kilometers an hour. And you've got to use that panning technique to follow the cyclist around to try and freeze the cyclist and blur the background. If you hold your camera still, you'll get a beautiful in-focus background and the cyclist will just shoot past and they'll be blurred. So there are 2 or 3 techniques you can use when photographing objects moving at speed. The football was great, and I've taken a couple of photographs of the crowd and not the game itself. I love walking around with the golfers. The crowd, particularly the Americans, treated it, I think, as a fancy dress day. And there were lots of people there who I think had never been to a golf match before. Lots of people taking photographs, but the atmosphere was fantastic and so relaxed. 1 year later, I go, and from a sunny weather for the Olympics, the weather was wet and cold just a few weeks ago when I was there. So I decided this is a time to use the rain to your advantage, so shoot reflections. And I shot some reflections outside the Museum of Tomorrow, beautiful museum in Rio. Finally, I went to the wonderful murals by a wonderful Brazilian artist. His murals, I believe they're about 300 meters long, and there's a face from each of the 5 continents. And what I did was I didn't stand back and take the photograph, as I've seen many people do. I wanted you to have a close look at each one of these images. I thought this, to me, was one of the highlights of the Olympics, and they looked down on you as though they were keeping an eye on the proceedings. It was just a really magical moment. So Brazil was for me was superb. People were fantastic. I remember a Japanese lady standing up so I could sit down. I think she thought I was 90 because I must have looked as though I'd had some hard days. There was a lot of walking during the Olympics. And this woman said, "Please sit down. You look as though you need a seat." So it was just really fantastic. I know there have been problems, and I'm not trying to hide the problems, but everybody in Rio treated us with the greatest of respect and friendliness. Well done, Brazil. Well done, Rio. I love you. Your fantastic hospitality. Absolutely brilliant.